Hi, Jim Roddy here from the RSPA doing something a little bit out of order. You know how usually you get the legal disclaimer before the actual content, right? The opinions expressed are those of the guests. They don't reflect the official position. Offer not valid in Arkansas, right? Today I'm going to share with you some content before we get our lawyer involved. I'm here to let you know that registration is now open for Retail Now 2023, the Retail Technology Channel's #1 trade show, education conference, and networking event. Join RSPA and Retail IT channel leaders live and in person July 30th through August 1st at the Gaylord Palms Resort and Convention Center in Orlando. With an expected 1,500 or more attendees, it's the place for extreme industry connectivity. Across just 48 hours, you meet new partners and new solution providers who can accelerate the success of your business. If you're serious about the Retail IT channel, you have to attend Retail Now 2023. It's where the industry meets. For all the details and to register at discount early bird rates, visit the Retail Now website today at gorspa.org/retail now. That's gorspa.org/retail now. I hope to see you there, and I hope you enjoy this episode with RSPA General Counsel, Attorney Jill Miller. Welcome to another episode of the Trusted Advisor podcast and video series powered by the Retail Solutions Providers Association. Our goal on the pod is to accelerate the success of today's and tomorrow's leaders in the retail IT industry. I'm Jim Roddy, back with you again. Thank you so much for joining us. Today on the pod, we have a return guest making her lucky 7th appearance on the Trusted Advisor is RSPA General Counsel, Attorney Jill Miller. Welcome back, Jill.
Hello, how are you?
I'm wonderful. It's always good to talk with you. So for those who don't know Jill, she's a partner at Detroit-based law firm Bodman PLC and has served as RSPA legal counsel since 2020, providing advice to all members, especially VARs and ISVs. And so that advice is available at no extra charge to RSPA members through phone calls, emails, video chats, and in-person meetings at RSPA events. And Jill's been engaged in our industry for several years, counseling clients on data privacy, cybersecurity, card processing, mobile payments, ACH, electronic fund transfers, virtual currencies, and more. Never a dull moment for you, Joe, right?
Right, I love this industry.
And that dovetails into, usually I ask, hey, Jill, what do you want to talk about today? What's on the mind of RSP members? But I already know the answer to that question because it's surcharging and cash discounting. And in fact, recently the RSPA held its ISV Spill the Tea session where ISVs get to talk and we do our post-event survey. And one of the requests was, you guys need to have something where you talk about surcharging and cash discounting. And here you are, Jill. So
Right.
again, super tricky topic. Where do you want to start? What would you want to share with our audience?
Well, I think we can start with Visa, because that's sort of what has brought this topic to the forefront of late. April 15th, just a few days ago, which normally was tax day, although this year it's the 18th. It was yesterday. But on April 15th, Visa came out and said, we're changing our surcharge rules. And two of the big changes were the amount of the surcharge that can be placed on a consumer ticket when they utilize a credit card to pay for a transaction. It cannot be it cannot exceed 3%, which previously it was 4%, or the amount that you are charged. So it's the lesser of that, either the lesser of what you're charged or the 3% cap. And secondly, previously, Visa required that merchants notify both Visa and their acquiring bank when they intended to start surcharging their consumers. Now, Visa has backed out and said, all you have to do is notify your acquiring bank. And so, those are a couple of changes. And there's also a lot more, we're going to expect to see a lot more compliance and a lot more enforcement of compliance. But so those are the big picture issues. And so I thought I'd just take a step back and just talk about surcharges generally in cash discount programs. There's always confusion as to how the programs need to be rolled out and what kind of information needs to be disclosed to consumers and how the actual cash discount or surcharge is applied. So One thing I noted when doing a little bit of background for today's podcast was that the visa rules usually are updated 2 times per each year in October and April. Out on the web still are only the October 2022 rules, so I would expect the visa rules to be updated in the upcoming weeks, sort of codifying these changes that I spoke of when I first started the podcast. However, there is a 3-page sort of merchant Q&A about merchant surcharge programs, which there's a link. If you just, basically Google merchant Q&A surcharge visa, it'll bring you up to this document, because I'm not going to read this very long link to get there. But if you can't find it, you can always email me at jmiller@bodmanlaw.com and I can send you the link. So let's just back up about, what is a surcharge? And a surcharge, according to Visa, is a fee that a merchant adds to a consumer's bill for paying with a credit card. And oftentimes merchants use this to offset the expense they have for credit card fees. Surcharge is not a convenience fee. A surcharge is simply a fee levied to cover the merchant's credit card fees that they're incurring for the transactions. Now, there's a lot of sort of a question about state law. Back in 2013 is when Visa entered into a settlement agreement under which they had historically banned surcharges. And then in 2013, due to a settlement, they allowed merchants to surcharge with specific disclosures, limitations, and basically following the rules that Visa had set out to actually implement this program. At the time, there were many state laws that still prohibited surcharges. And so while Visa had allowed it, there were many states where you couldn't, implement a surcharge. So we've kind of come down, a lot of companies were lobbying different states. And there were several cases that came out. Now, I think there's a little confusion, at least in my mind, about which states still prohibits surcharges, because I'm reading contradictory information. In that 3-page document I mentioned, Visa states that, I have some notes here, that there are 4 states in which surcharges are prohibited. And they say that those states are, flipping through my notes here. They say those states are, and again, this is just dated 4/15/2023. They say that Connecticut, Maine, Massachusetts, and Oklahoma prohibits surcharges. Now, I've read contradictory information from other companies who have sophisticated merchant surcharge programs that say that there are only 2 states, Connecticut and Massachusetts, that prohibits surcharging. When doing a little bit of light research, it looks like Maine, which Visa says doesn't permit surcharges, has a law that's similar to New York, which says you can impose a surcharge provided that you post both the cash price and the credit card price. And then with respect to Oklahoma, and again, the laws, there's always interpretation. Oklahoma, in December of 2019, there was a Attorney General opinion letter that said that merchants can surcharge. So I think there's a little bit of, I'm not 100% clear on if there's 4 or if there's 2, but I'm sure more to come on that. And then lastly, Colorado, of all the states, has their unique rule in that they don't allow you to charge any more than 2%. So that's sort of the state law component of this. Go back to my other notes. And so, surcharges can only be charged on credit cards. They cannot be charged on debit cards, and they cannot be charged on prepaid cards. And it's in the US and the US territory. So it's not sort of this global, Visa has rules for each individual country. And currently it's in the US where what I'm talking about today. There's signage. You've got to disclose to the consumer, and Visa in the rules in 2022, the October 2022 rules, and previous to that, have a lot of specificity with respect to what the consumer disclosures have to contain. There are some sample disclosures available from Visa. I have those again. You can email me, jmiller@bodmanlaw.com, and I can send those to you, but those aren't necessarily useful in a state like New York, where you have to list both the cash and the credit price, because the Visa disclosures just say you have to put the percentage, or you have to put the dollar amount that will be charged. And for those of us who were involved in surcharging for some time, if you remember, the New York law said, we don't want consumers to have to do math, which is why they wanted the cash and the credit price. So what's important also is that you have to include if you're doing a surcharge, you have to include the price of the product, one line item, and you have to have a separate line item for the surcharge, and it has to be all on one ticket. Visa also recently has specifically set forth a field labeled Field 28, in which the surcharge needs to be listed, and the acquirer should be able to assist with that particular compliance issue. One of the last point I'll make about that Visa 3-page document is this. Visa says they are actively enforcing its surcharge policy in accordance with its rules and state laws. And they state that they have mystery shoppers out there. They say that, and I've seen some documents come back from Visa saying to merchants, we've been in your store, your program's not compliant, pull it together. And then as of April 15th, 2023, the acquirer of any merchant identified as out of compliance with the surcharge rules and regulations may be assessed an immediate $1,000 fine. I don't know if that's per occurrence or per merchant, or that's just sort of one line that's in the 3-page document. I imagine the rules will give us more clarity, if there's a second violation, or if an acquirer has a bunch of merchants that are doing this, there might be further looking at that acquirer and while their merchants are not in compliance. So that I found interesting. And so that's it for surcharging. I'll take a break there and see if you have something you want to ask me about this.
Well, first, thank you for spelling out the enforcement thing, because that's the first thing that jumped out to me. Like, whoa, is somebody going to jail here, or is it just a slap on the wrist, or are they really enforcing it, or are they just putting it on paper there? But it seems like there's some teeth behind the enforcement. But I think there's also something instructive in terms of how you're approaching this, Jill, where you're referring to your notes, right? And you have lots of them on this. There's a lot of resident knowledge you bring to this already, but you're also doing a lot of research on it. And my guess is a lot of VARs and ISVs are not doing that. They're going with what they know, right? And or what they've heard or what they think, because that's, this has not been a very heavily regulated industry. Can you talk about the landmines for VARs and ISVs if they just go with what they know? Like, what can happen if they don't follow through on this, if they don't implement this incorrectly, besides, what could happen to their merchants, through visas enforcement, things of that nature? Where are the landmines for resellers if they don't do their due diligence?
They need to be in business with a company that has a well-established and a well-documented surcharge program, because that's really where the system has to be able to look at a transaction and know if it's a debit card. if you have a POS system that can differentiate between a debit card and a credit card, you could be in violation.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if the consumer chooses credit when they're putting in a debit card. It still is prohibited under the rules from assessing a surcharge on a debit card. So you have to be with a partner who is sophisticated and who has been working this program for many years and understands the complexities and the rules related to it. I went out to, and I'm not going to name names, but a couple of highly sophisticated companies. They already had their websites updated to say the 3%. They already had that you only have to notify the acquirer, whereas some other websites, it still had the 4%. It still had, you have to notify Visa and the acquiring bank. So you really need to be with a company who understands surcharging and isn't playing games. I have spoken with many resellers, ISVs, independent sales organizations who say, wait, no, I think we can do this. I think we can. And I say, no, you can't. It's pretty black and white as far as I'm concerned, but that's, the conservative lawyer in me. But I do believe it's black and white, and maybe I'll just, when I delve in next to the cash discount program, I think that will highlight.
Before we talk cash discounting, my guess is I'm doing this. It's okay, right? Right. They want you to agree with them as opposed to calling balls and strikes, because people, there's a lot of money, there's a lot of opportunity here. But again, there are areas you can misstep as well. So talk cash discounting again. So folks know we were just talking about surcharging. It's related to cash discounting, but related but different things. Talk about cash discounting and what your take is and what you've learned and what you want to share with VARs and ISVs.
Okay, so cash discounting means that there's a posted price, and if you pay with cash, it's going to be less than that. There's this talk about dual pricing. And so I'll just back up one step. There are no laws prohibiting offering a consumer a cash discount on a purchase. However, it's about how you're presenting it, where you can run afoul of the card brand rules. And so Visa stated that it allows its merchants to implement cash discount programs. However, to do so correctly, the merchant has to display their prices in either one of these ways, and there's only two. So it's, I think, again, to me, black and white. I even have it bolded here. So it's, it says only the card price is posted, which means the card price is posted. It's $5 for a cup of coffee. If you pay with cash, it's $4.80. Or both the card price and the cash price are listed, like you might see at a gas station. We all use that reference, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's it. So what you can't do is say the cash price is $20 and add an extra amount if you pay with card.
Right.
That is a surcharge.
Yes. Okay.
So that's where people run afoul. Again, if someone's paying by cash, it has to be less than the credit price that's posted, or it has to be the cash price when the credit and the cash price are listed. So again, to me, it's black and white. I've had a lot of discussions with folks along the way. But this is sort of, to me, seems pretty cut and dry. So when the cardholder is presented with their final bill for payment, the total price to be paid on a card has to be displayed in full. And if they want to do a discount for cash, it has to come off of that price. So I can say this again in 5 different ways, and people are like, we got the point, Jill. So I'll move on. to the next sort of discussion about uh, cash discounts. And so, and surcharges generally. Visa says, here's what they say on one of their uh, documents, again, dated, where did I just saw it this morning? It was dated 4/15/2023. Visa's position on surcharging. Visa remains opposed to surcharging, a practice that penalizes cardholders for using their preferred form of payment.
Hmm.
So, Visa and MasterCard, MasterCard follows Visa. So when people say, what's MasterCard doing? They're doing exactly what Visa does. And they go into sort of the salesy approach of why it is that the benefits of card acceptance include increased sales, a fast and convenient checkout. They're trying to sort of really encourage merchants not to impose a surcharge. I don't know that I've seen them decreasing their prices or any other methods. And maybe that's in a think tank and Visa, they're thinking of other ways to make it more attractive for merchants to accept cards. Let's hope, that we can find some other ways for merchants not to bear the burden of these fees for running their business. And then, I talked a little bit about the consumer disclosure, and I'll just finalize this discussion with this. As soon as the merchant comes into a location, they need to see it. So even if they come on a website, they need to see the disclosure about the surcharge. When they're at the point of sale, they need to be able to see that the surcharge is there. There's different font types and things of that nature of what the signs need to look like. And the consumer also has to be able to, once they see that, be able to change their method of payment. And so consumer disclosure necessary, not more than 3%. The lesser of 3% or the cost it actually is to that the merchant incurs for processing card payments. And you have to notify your acquirer that you're going to do this program. And then on the cash discount side, post the credit price, and then you can, if you pay with cash, you'll pay less, or post both the cash price and the credit price.
Got it. Thank you for that. And again, there's a ton there. I guess the last word before we take a quick pause and then want to talk about your plan for talking about this at retail now. It seems like for VARs and ISVs, there are some things where they can say, I'm going to do it however I want. Or, yeah, here's a way I'm going to kind of do it that way. I'm able to color outside the lines, or I'm going to use my own color that I want, to use that artistic analogy. It seems like for this one, if it says use the color blue and do it within the lines, you've got to do it within the lines, or else you are running significant risks, right? This is not something that you can necessarily get super creative with, right? Like you should
Right.
follow the letter of the law. Is that kind of what your advice
That's
to our
exactly right.
listeners?
That's
Okay.
exactly right. Because not only that, the merchant could be cut off and never be able to accept cards. There's
Yes.
fines imposed. I mean, the last thing you want to be is on Visa or MasterCard's radar. And so while there is a lot of money to be made by our clients and by our folks in the industry, you need to do so in a way which is compliant with the card brand rules and the laws.
Got it. Well, thank you for that. And I will say, last fall at the RMH Retail Management Hero conference, RSPA member VAR was presenting, and somebody asked him a question about cash discounting and surcharging, and he just paused and said, "There's a payments panel later today. I'll let them address it." Like he completely punted on it. And then when we had that discussion, you could see all the rumors, and I heard this, I heard this, I heard that, and it was very difficult, and you could see why he punted on the question. That's what I thought, like, because I was moderating that panel. I'm like, I can
Mhm.
see now why he punted. I'd say, Jill, thank you for not punting on this one. Again, it's a
You
complex
got it.
subject. We appreciate you being here. For members, we're going to take a quick pause to let our listeners know, if you want to be able to work with Jill, you can become a member as well of the Retail Solution Providers Association, North America's largest community of VARs, software developers, vendors, and distributors in the retail, restaurant, grocery, and cannabis verticals. To receive the benefits of an RSP membership or sponsorship, email membership@gorspa.org. Also, want to thank our sponsors who support the RSP community and make this podcast and video series possible. Our platinum sponsor is Blue Star. Our gold sponsors are CoCard, Heartland, ScanSource, and Star Micronics. And so, Retail Now, let's talk about that, Jill. Can you talk about your plan at Retail Now? Because you're going to be doing a breakout session that's going to dive even deeper into surcharging and cash discounting. Can you talk about that presentation and how you're going to engage some RSP members as well and what folks can get out of that?
Yes, so we're going to do a panel discussion, which I think is really a lot more interesting than just the legal perspective, because we're going to have business leaders who actually run these kinds of programs and the things that they see from an operational perspective. And so I think we're going to have a few people. We'll just do sort of Q&A. We'll do a little bit of discussion on the front end of sort of the landscape, and the rules probably will have come out by then. This does become a heated topic when we get out there in the trade shows, but I don't think it needs to be. I think that, we just will go in with the information, and we will be open to questions and perspectives. But like I said, I think it's pretty black and white. People may have nuances or ways in which they think the program can be run. We'll try to help address those questions and comments. I think it'll be a great session. It's definitely something that impacts payment professionals and ISVs and VARs on a daily basis. So yeah, we're eager to talk about it. I think it'll be a packed room with, again, both the legal and the actual business elements related to these programs.
And I have a quick football analogy, and you can tell me if this holds water or not. And I know Bodman works with the Detroit Lions, so we've got a football.
Yes.
Hopefully, will work here, where there's almost an element of you're like the when the replay is going on during a game, and they bring in like Gene Steratore on CBS or somebody like that, like a former official, and everybody's like, "Yeah, I think it's this. I think it's this," and he's able to go, "Well, the rule book says this, and because the rule book says this, the call should be this." And then people say, yeah, but it didn't have an impact, whatever. You might say that, but the rule book says this. And
Right.
so you need to do this. Is that kind of how you're thinking this panel could go to that degree in terms of the practical application of it? And then you talking about, well, here's where the lines are drawn, kind of like, again, that alternate video official. Is
Yeah,
that a close analogy?
I think so, right. And I think we're there to actually help people understand why the programs have to be run a certain way. I mean, my job as a lawyer is to help facilitate business and to help transactions get done and help people. That's why I'm not a litigator. I really like to, not impede business. Um, but we have to do so in a way which is in compliance with the laws. It's not me up there, saying what my opinion is. It's really, again, if somebody comes up and has a question about their program, we can give them, the exact rule of why it might not be that way. And if they want to talk after the panel, we can do that too. I'm there the
Yeah.
whole show. Mhm.
Awesome. Wonderful. And for those who don't know about Retail Now, go to gorspa.org/retail now so you can learn all about Retail Now 2023 that's going to be held late July to early August, July 30th through August 1st at the Gaylord Palms in Orlando. Finally, Jill, before we go, you've alluded to it before, but how can RSP members connect with you to discuss legal issues beyond discounting and surcharging?
Yes, so I can be reached at jmiller@bodmanlaw.com. Send me an email. I'd like to actually see our members. So many times you'll send me a question and then I'll just respond, and we'll set up a time where we can have a Zoom meeting. You can always call me at 734-930-2499. Email is always great, right? Because then we can set up a time that's convenient for both of us, and I'm not calling a member back when they're in the middle of a sale or trying to hustle from one meeting to the next. So I've really enjoyed these, last 3 years getting to know our members, and have really developed some really good, deep relationships and helping members with questions that they don't have to spend a fortune asking, a lawyer, when I can just in short order, just give them an answer and then sort of get them on the right track.
Wonderful. Well, to keep the football analogy going, we're glad you're on our team,
Yes,
Jill.
me
Happy
too.
happy to have you on our team. Well,
Thank
that does
you.
it for this episode of the Trusted Advisor. We hope you enjoyed our discussion. Be sure to subscribe to the RSP YouTube channel and the Trusted Advisor podcast so you never miss an episode. If you'd like to learn more best practices for VARs and ISVs in the retail technology channel, you can check out the RSPA blog. You can find it at gorspa.org and then clicking on RSPA blog. Before we go, big thanks again to attorney Jill Miller for sharing her wisdom with us today. Thanks also to RSP Marketing Director Chris Arnold for his production work, Joseph McDade for our music, and last but not least, thanks so much to you for listening. Our goal at the RSPA is to accelerate the success of our members in the retail technology ecosystem by providing knowledge and connections. For more information, visit our website at gorspa.org. Thanks for listening, and goodbye, everybody.